because I do have a couple of other things I'm adding, because this training's always changing, which is why you can take it again anytime, and probably next year it'll be different again, because we're always changing things. Some of the basics will always be there, because the basics really are always the same anyway, since the beginning of time, pretty much. Psychoneural regeneration is the idea of some of my first medical teachers taught me about, that you can, with your mind, reprogram the cellular structure. You know, Bruce Lipton talks about these things.
Let me ask you something, because I mean, there are traditional regression hypnotherapists out there. And then there's the timeline, right? Which offers its own, you know, version of it. I mean, so which one, I mean, so what's your perception? Because right now, I mean, I like the timeline. I've been doing traditional regression. Actually, to be honest, I've never done timeline with a client. It's all been like when I feel like, because I don't always go to regression, but when I feel like, okay, it would be to the client's benefit, I've done like traditional regression, a la, like say Cal Banyan. I don't know if you're familiar with them, but anyway, so I don't know. So what's your take on?
Well, it's interesting. As you're talking, I'm hearing all kinds of stuff. And the first thing I heard was traditional regression. And I realized, I'll bet if you asked each of the people on this call already, they'd tell you what their impression of what those words mean would be different.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like saying normal. What's normal, right? Depends on your frame of reference, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So to me, regression happens in the pre-talk every time you ask your client to tell you about what's going on with them. They already go into trance, and as they're talking about the history of their problem, they're doing a regression, aren't they? Lots of opportunities. That's why I still say the pre-talk is, you can get a whole lot of the work done in the pre-talk before you even start the formal induction, the ritual. Because they're already going into trance by telling their story. You're hearing about their belief systems surrounding their story. You're hearing about their identity, we were just talking about, who they are that came through that, what they've learned, the baggage they've carried forward. You're hearing a whole lot of really useful information, and knowing that they're in a little bit of a trance, you can also tap into some of those resources that pop up in their story. It's an opportunity to start already teaching them how to interrupt patterns, access strengths, anchor them in, and start building on those. So to me, regression happens in every session, whether we do a formal traditional regression or not, whatever that means to each of us.
I'd like to tell Alexandra why I never have the problem with techniques, what technique to use. It is because I'm such a bad student. I always just listen to the techniques, how to do them, maybe read it quickly over once. So I never quite remember them. Yes. I just use what seems to work.
Absolutely.
So I'm mixing techniques and inventing as I go. The main thing for me is it should work. If it works, then I use it. If it seems doesn't work, then I just change to something else.
Absolutely. That was very well said, perfectly said, because that's the key. You know, I love scripts, and I know some hypnotists, some trainers don't use scripts at all. They really helped me when I was learning. I think they're a learning tool, and they help you to get different ideas into your creative mind, that then when you're in front of that, like you said, read the scripts, learn the techniques. And I believe in learning as many as you can possibly get, because then when that client's in front of you and you kind of trust yourself and let all that go, just like we want our client to trust us and trust themselves to let all the stuff they tried to figure out about their problem, you know, consciously, that hasn't been helpful up to now. We want them to kind of let that go and be open to some new ideas showing up from their creative unconscious, which is what we have to trust in ourselves with the client. Now, even if you've already, and I know Gilbert, you have taken a very extensive parts therapy training from Roy Hunter, again, he didn't invent parts therapy, and neither did his mentor. Well, he might have coined the term. I'm not even sure about that, but it sounds like he might have coined the term parts therapy. And yet there's a lot of different variations, like there are all of these things. And I'm going to go through a little history just to, again, as a reminder that we do make all this up. And everything that we make up with our client is going to be a compilation of, in my opinion, everything we've ever learned that's stored in our unconscious at that moment that may come forward in some form. And I believe that when we make that connection with their unconscious mind, when we get into that realm of the hypnotic realm and the channel opens, I think of that unconscious also being a channel to more information beyond ourselves. If that sounds a little woo-woo, sorry. But there is evidence of people being able to access information that they weren't taught. Jung called it the universal consciousness, I think, where you tap into a realm of more intelligence than you have stored as a singular human being in the lifetime that you've had so far. With conversational hypnosis, Ericksonian, permissive language, that kind of thing. To me, that is the most powerful, in my opinion. And that's why metaphors work so well with health issues, isn't it? Because it's inference. It's not demanding or commanding or intruding by the hypnotist. It's offering possibilities. You know, I love that word. It's part of my company name, you know. But when you hear words like you may, might, wouldn't it be interesting? You know, those kinds of words, they're inviting, like you said, that question of isn't it nice to know? You know, those kinds of things. They're just so non-invasive that when someone's in even a light state of hypnosis, it allows their unconscious mind to start scanning for those possibilities that are relevant for them. In there. To me, my goal is to get all of those positions covered, you know, looking at it from right after it's done and you're okay again. If it's a trauma, you're assuming there was an event that started this sequence, even if they're not sure what it was. I'm assuming there's something that started this. They weren't born with it, in other words. And in her case, definitely, it's only been a couple of years. But for anybody to go back and look at it from after that event's done, from the unconscious level, and you're okay again. In other words, you survived it, whatever it was. And then to notice it from right over the top of it, and then to get that other perceptual position of before anything ever happened having to do with it. So, and that's a powerful place, because that's a place of safety and nothing's even happened yet. So you can get a different perspective of free from the emotional, the idea is free from the emotional impact or connection from that, again, that higher position, perceptual position, which again can represent for some people higher mind, meaning I'm more in touch with my spiritual self, or whatever their thoughts are about those kind of things. It's got all kinds of implications. Part of every single time I do that, then I always take, you know, if it's in a first session many times, or at least some variation of this, because it's going to be a point where I can take them to have their unconscious mind remember this is when you were just pure possibilities. With all of the things you were born, that were inborn, you know, traits and characteristics and those wonderful things and talents and potentials and all of that. But nothing's happened yet in the human life. So I like to take them above that moment to have their unconscious mind become aware of when they were pure, no human experiences yet, when they're just pure possibilities. To me, that's a power position. And I like to anchor that in. And then sometimes I even take them farther back, which depending on the person, you know, I'll take them farther back and even up higher so that they can see there. And this comes from, again, a lot of the Tad James work does these kind of things, where you're looking out way down there and out in the future to where your entire lifeline from when you were first, you know, came into human form to that moment of now, way out there in the future, that it looks like it's about 2 inches long. You go, now you realize all the possibilities are here. You have all the, you know, what you came into the world with, and each experience is a learning opportunity, you know, where you're developing skills and experience that make each subsequent experience be something that you bring more resources to.
I loved your class so much, Patty, because you know, one of the best things about it was the homework. How funny is that? I mean, when you're in school, how much do you love doing homework? Oh,
Yeah.
Right? And I just thought this was so great.
Oh, I appreciate that, because, you know, a lot of classes I've taken through the years, and most of the people I know that teach, they don't do a lot of homework. The way I design it is to get you more excited about what we're doing, you know, and to me, you got to do it. And sometimes that script analysis, when I came up with that a couple of years ago, that just ended up being a really nice little exercise in really thinking a little more deeply about how the words impact us.
Oh, yeah. And it kind of gave you, when you write your own script, it kind of gave you an outline. So when, you know, when you're doing your analysis, you know, of all the different parts, so you actually have something to follow that, you know, you'll get the job done. Then you can just fill in all the stuff that you want to talk about. But at least you have like a solid outline to go by. So I just thought it was awesome.
Yeah. Metaphors and script writing, I think, is a great exercise.
Yeah.
Again, it's all about getting yourself and your mind to be spontaneously creative and flexible and all of that. And it's not about memorizing scripts or how to say something. It's about sparking your own creativity. It reminds me that sometimes you got to get back to basics and keep it simple for people. So let me put all of you on the spot first. What do you think medical hypnotherapy is? Yeah, Ajamu.
My elevator speech on medical hypnosis is as follows. Medical hypnosis is a collaborative process between a hypnotherapist and a medical doctor or dentist, where we help the patient to manage side effects of treatment and medication, as well as general compliance with medical compliance.
When people ask me, I usually say taking the emotion out of whatever diagnosis you have, so that you could, whatever treatments that you're going through, you can go through them with less stress and actually program the body to get the best of whatever treatment you're getting to use for your highest good.
So just a very simple, just allowing the body-mind connection to be better connected, so the individual can tap into their own healing abilities, whether it's physical, mental, just improving that mind-body connection.
Okay, all of the above sounds good to me. And to oversimplify even more, if someone knows what hypnosis is, assuming they know what hypnosis is, I would say medical hypnotherapy is simply using hypnosis for a diagnosis with a medical referral. I don't feel like I do anything different, with very few exceptions, for medical issues than I do for anything else, because my belief system that seems to help me help my clients as it's evolved through the years, and with the great teachers I was fortunate to stumble in front of in those early years especially, taught me that it's all the same. The mind, the body, the emotions, the energy, it's all, you know, we keep using the word holistic and integrative and all these words. It all goes together. If one thing is out of balance, it's going to affect the entire being, right? It's not just going to be that one thing. The other elements of the being may not be as affected as quickly or as noticeably for a while sometimes, as in someone that worries all the time and always fretting about everything and thinking about the worst possible what ifs all the time. They may not develop ulcers or other physical manifestations for a while, for a long time. But that doesn't mean that those changes aren't already occurring in the body. So to me, medical hypnotherapy in the simplest form is doing hypnosis with a medical referral. So
So how do you differentiate medical hypnosis from clinical hypnosis?
I don't.
Okay.
Because clinical is a medical term.
Mhm.
We really aren't. Now, again, the caveat is if you're from other countries, please look into, with your organizations, they should know the laws, IACT, IMDHA, whatever organizations you belong to should know the laws as it applies to hypnosis. Depending on who you're talking to, medical hypnotherapy, is using hypnosis. We use hypnosis techniques, right? Any technique that you learned in your basic or your entire hypnosis career, practically, if not all of them, can be adapted for health issues. Mm-hmm. And sometimes with very, very tiny modifications. I think we approach it with a little bit of a different attitude, because it's a different kind of a mindset going on. When somebody walks in with a diagnosis and a doctor sends them to you. One thing that I think is a benefit, if a doctor's sending them to you, it increases your credibility instantly. So if you're brand new to this, and like I said, my first year, I started getting doctor's referrals, and I was studying this stuff with a bunch of people in Arizona and California. And, my confidence level wasn't built up yet as far as what I could do, but I was confident that I had some good training. And like I said, fake it, act like you're confident, and it'll come across. And keep out of your own head, and just remember to look at your client and just really want to help them. And that gets you out of your own stuff, and you'll be able to help them. If they trust you, you can help them with whatever you know up to right now.